Imagine the late 15th century. People had yet to discover the far corners of the world and the depths of the oceans. On maps, there were only dark, uncharted areas, places marked with warnings like, "Do not go here," or "Monsters live here." But there was one man who was ready to face those fears and boldly sail into the unknown. He had no detailed maps, but his heart was full of great dreams. He was Vasco da Gama, the first European explorer to sail around the tip of Africa and reach India. His journey didn't just open new lands, it changed the course of world history, trade routes, and the fate of empires. Now join us as we follow his adventure and discover how he took those very first steps into the unknown. Fact 1. Not in dusty deserts, but to the eternal sound of waves, he was born. In the 1460s, a young boy was born in the quiet coastal town of Sines, Portugal. His childhood was spent listening to the rhythm of the sea, with the sound of the waves as his closest companion. Even as a little boy, he yearned to explore distant lands, embark on adventures, and uncover hidden mysteries. His heart was filled not just with sand and earth, but with the endless wonders of the ocean. This boy was Vasco da Gama, the great navigator who would one day change the world's maps and unlock the secrets of the seas. Fact 2. He had no map, but endless courage. When Vasco da Gama set out on his voyage, he held no precise map in his hands. He didn't know what dangers or secrets awaited him ahead. The depths of the ocean were like a dark, unopened book. But inside him beat a fearless heart, driven by the desire to explore and discover the unknown. With every wave and every breeze, he searched for new horizons. His greatest strength was his bravery, his willingness to face the unknown head-on. And so he embarked on a great sea journey that would lead humanity into a new era. 3. 1498, a defining turning point in history when the world was rewritten. In May 1498, Vasco da Gama and his small crew bravely rounded the treacherous and uncharted Cape of Good Hope, located at the southern tip of Africa. This wasn't merely a geographical discovery. It was a monumental event that altered the very fabric of global trade, politics, and power. Until then, the primary routes connecting Europe to Asia had been long, arduous, and dangerous overland paths, controlled by various empires and middlemen. But da Gama's successful sea voyage opened a direct maritime link between Europe and the wealthy markets of Asia, granting access to precious spices, silk, and gold. This newfound sea route not only revolutionized commerce, but also shifted the balance of imperial power, allowing Portugal to rise as a dominant naval empire. The ripples of this journey extended far beyond trade. It marked the dawn of a new era of global exploration, colonization, and cultural exchange. This was not just a triumph for one man, but a legendary milestone for all humanity, forever reshaping the world map and its history. Fact 4. He didn't just find a route, he broke down barriers. Vasco da Gama didn't simply discover a sea path, he crossed invisible boundaries between Europe and Asia. His voyage wasn't just about covering physical distance, it forged new connections between two very different cultures and powerful economies. For the first time in human history, trade that had long depended on overland routes shifted to the seas. Vasco da Gama built bridges between diverse peoples, opened the doors to a new era, and changed the balance of power among empires. He didn't just draw new lines on maps, he shattered the boundaries in people's minds. Fact 5, the journey lasted over 10 months, a story of endurance and hope. Vasco da Gama's voyage from Europe to India was long and grueling, stretching over 10 months. His crew risked their lives amid endless waves, fierce winds, and the vast open sea. Supplies of food and fresh water were scarce, and diseases like scurvy weakened and claimed many sailors. Yet they never gave up. Each day they pushed forward a little more, driven by the belief that new lands, riches, and victory awaited them at the end. This journey became a living testament to human willpower, patience, and grand dreams. For 10 months, they kept their eyes fixed on the stars, stepping forward with hope across the endless ocean. Fact 6, the first welcome and an unexpected shock. When Vasco da Gama arrived in India, he was not greeted with the enthusiastic celebration he had imagined. Local rulers and residents viewed his arrival with suspicion, unable to understand these strange visitors from Europe. The gifts he brought, spices and treasures highly valued in Europe, often seemed ordinary or even uninteresting to the locals. In their eyes, this new traveler was simply a curious stranger, perhaps even a threat. Some even laughed, dismissing his precious offerings as child's play. This moment was a profound cultural and diplomatic challenge for Vasco da Gama. He wasn't just discovering new lands, he was opening the door to complex and delicate relationships. This reception showed him that conquering the seas was only part of the journey. He would also need to win over hearts and minds. Fact 7. He returned a hero. Vasco da Gama's long and perilous journey ended successfully when he returned to Portugal in 1499. The news and the precious cargo of spices he brought back caused a great excitement across the country. The king and the royal court welcomed him and his crew with great love and respect. Vasco da Gama was no longer just a sailor. He was hailed as the founder of Portugal's new sea empire. He was granted the noble title of Don, gifted rich lands, and his fame spread far beyond the country's borders. This heroic tale became a source of inspiration for even greater discoveries to come and secured Portugal's important place in world history. Fact 8. He returned again, this time tougher and more determined. After his first voyage, Vasco da Gama returned to India in 1502. But this time, he was no longer just an explorer. He was a leader strengthening Portugal's power in the region. On this journey, he adopted a harsher approach than before. To protect trade routes and secure Portugal's interests, he used force and intimidation. His fleet built forts in India, pressured local rulers, and acted ruthlessly against enemies. These tough measures helped Portugal solidify its naval empire in Asia, but also sparked conflicts and resistance. For Vasco da Gama, this marked a shift from exploration to imperial politics. Fact 9. He breathed his last in India, far away on foreign soil. In 1524, Vasco da Gama set out on his third and final voyage to India. By then, he was aged and weary, yet he remained steadfast in fulfilling his duty. However, this journey proved fateful. Far from home, in a land with a hot and unfamiliar climate, illness and exhaustion took their toll. Thousands of miles away from his native Portugal, Vasco da Gama drew his final breath on a foreign soil. But his legacy and name would live on forever in world history. He was not just a sailor, he was a legend who crossed boundaries, opened new worlds, and changed the fate of empires. Fact 10. His body was carried across oceans, a final journey home. When Vasco da Gama died in India in 1524, the news reached Portugal with deep sorrow. A hero who had passed away in a distant land deserved to be embraced by his homeland one last time. His remains began a long and complex journey, crossing the Indian Ocean, sailing past the shores of Africa, and navigating the vast Atlantic, until he was finally brought back to the land of his birth. But this was more than just the return of a body. It was a voyage of honor, gratitude, and national pride. A tribute from a nation to the man who had changed its destiny. In Lisbon, he was received with a grand ceremony. The royal court, clergy, and the people of Portugal all bowed their heads in respect. Vasco da Gama was no longer just a sailor. He had become a legend, the man who helped shape the Portuguese empire. He was laid to rest in the Jerónimos monastery, and his name was written into history with golden letters. Even in death, Vasco da Gama crossed the seas once more, returning home as an eternal hero. Dear viewers, today we sailed through the depths of time and met a man whose courage changed the course of history, Vasco da Gama. His story asks us, what unknown paths are we willing to take today? How many boundaries still exist only in our minds? And do we have the courage to cross them? Vasco da Gama didn't just conquer oceans. He overcame humanity's fears. He set out without a map. What uncharted journeys have you embarked on? What do you wish to discover? The world, or perhaps yourself? If you love stories that awaken the spirit and spark deep reflection, subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. Every week we bring you new histories, new questions, and new answers. Share with us in the comments, which historical figure inspires you the most? Who do you think are today's explorers? And you, how do you want to leave your mark on this world? Thank you, and until the next adventure, remember, asking questions is the first step to discovery.